Let's go right to the phones and bring in Mike Spofford. He is the senior writer at Packers.com, the Green Bay Packers official website. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure.
Mike, we have your photo on a 70-inch screen, and I have not met you, but I just want to say you have great hair.
You're a good-looking man,
you're
Mike.
You're a good-looking guy.
Well, thanks. I appreciate
Either that or you take a good photo. I don't know which it is.
Hey, so, Mike, I'm looking over the Packers roster. Obviously everybody knows they're a Super Bowl contender. I'm looking over the roster, and I'm saying to myself, does this team even have a weakness? Does this team have a weakness?
Well, I think the biggest question, I would say there are two questions. One is depth on the defensive line could be an issue. I mean, we are talking about a unit that has, several young players and also a couple players who are probably going to be suspended. One who for sure is suspended for Week 1, and Dayton Jones, and LaTroy Guion has a suspension for early in the season that he's appealing. So they'll have some issues to work out on the defensive line. I think the other question is special teams. That's one of the biggest areas that Mike McCarthy kind of overhauled, you might say. Replaced the special teams coordinator with Ron Zook. He's gotten himself more involved in special teams by giving up play calling to Tom Clements. The Packers were not good at all in kickoff return. Coverage units were, hit or miss at certain times. Punt return has been pretty solid over the years and explosive. But I think the Packers need to shore up those things on special teams. And obviously, as everybody knows, it was a fake field goal and an onside kick were two of the biggest factors that cost them a trip to the Super Bowl last year.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you will, that it's my understanding that Mike McCarthy has turned over the play calling responsibilities, and that's something that I felt like he always kind of kept close to his heart, that he always wanted to be involved in every play. Am I correct in assuming that he actually is releasing some of those responsibilities?
Yeah, he's given up the play calling to Tom Clements, who an assistant on his staff who's been quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, and now is associate head coach / offense. And it really was an interesting decision by McCarthy because he's known in the coaching circles as a very innovative play caller. He was singled out by Bill Belichick after the Packers beat the Patriots at Lambeau Field late last season for just his offensive innovation and the way he called that game. So it was a big decision by Mike McCarthy, but I think one where he felt he needed to be more involved on the defensive side, as I mentioned, more involved in the special teams. And he has a lot of trust in Tom Clements, who has worked with Aaron Rodgers for as long as McCarthy has, dating all the way back to 2006. So it's a little bit of an experiment, you might say, because it is such a new thing, a new way for McCarthy to go about it, but he seems committed to it.
That segment brought to you by Shanahan's Steakhouse, best steakhouse in town. Mike, the way the NFC Championship game ended, Green Bay and Seattle last year, is this serving as motivation for this Packers team? Do they talk about it much?
Honestly, they don't, and the only time it really comes up is when reporters ask about it, in the locker room during interviews and stuff like that. Mike McCarthy said, within a couple of weeks after the loss to Seattle in January, he said the 2015 team will not bear the burden of what happened in 2014. And another month or so after that, he made the comment that there aren't going to be any remember Seattle slogans or anything like that are going to be attached to this new season. They've really taken the approach of hey, it was terrible what happened. They know they should have won the game. You learn from it what you can, but you can't dwell on it. I mean, I think certain individual players may, look at that game and that loss as motivation, but as far as the team as a whole, that really hasn't been the overriding theme by any stretch. They're going to play the Seahawks at Lambeau Field in Week 2. With the media and whatnot, they'll end up reliving, everything that happened last January. And it's probably a good thing for this team that that's going to happen early in the season. And because they sort of get that, whatever taste of that game that they have to relive, they'll get it out of their system in mid-September and move on.
Mike, we've talked about the division and the changes that happened with the Chicago Bears. And we have to believe in Denver that John Fox and Adam Gase are going to get more out of Jay Cutler and Chicago Bears. It's still a team that's kind of in transition. But as Les pointed out this week, that the Vikings have become sort of the team du jour, and Detroit, despite losing Sue, still is a team that I'm very intrigued
Dangerous.
by.
Yeah.
Well, your examination, because you're much closer to the division than what I said. Am I on base that this is going to be an improved division? It's going to be tougher for the Packers game to game in those 6 that they'll play?
I agree with you. I think the NFC North is going to be perhaps even tougher. I mean, Detroit was a playoff team last year, and you know, there's certainly an explosive offense there with Stafford, Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, you know, all of those guys. You mentioned Chicago and John Fox. I think what you mentioned about Jay Cutler is curious, but John Fox is also going to get, I think he's going to get the Bears back to playing the kind of defense that you're used to seeing out of Chicago Bears teams. And Fox has done that in other places where he's taken over teams that have struggled defensively, and he's gotten them back on track very quickly on that side of the ball. And then, as you said, sort of the team du jour is the Vikings, because they have the up-and-coming quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. They've put together a lot of pieces on defense for Mike Zimmer, and that was a team that was really buying into what Zimmer was selling in the second half of last season. They were a very, very tough football team in the second half of 2014, and now you're taking that team, adding a more experienced quarterback, and then adding Adrian Peterson back into that mix. So I do think the NFC North is going to be tough. I would still project the Packers as the favorites until somebody proves otherwise, but this division is not going to be a cakewalk by any stretch.
Mike, how does Aaron Rodgers look, and do you, along with everybody else, consider him the top candidate for the MVP award this year?
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers has looked, pretty much like Aaron Rodgers in training camp. I mean, we'll see as we go through these preseason games now, but I think the biggest question on everybody's mind is, was there going to be anything lingering from that calf injury that limited him at the end of the regular season and into the playoffs last year? And that was kind of answered in the spring during workouts. He was running around. He proclaimed himself, no issues with the calf. It looks like he's in great shape. He looks like, he's in the same type of form he was in last year when he won his second MVP. So not to say he's going to win another MVP, but he's certainly going to perform like that, again, barring some kind of an injury like the calf or the collarbone thing that he had a couple of years ago.
Mike, this way again, and I'm going to take you into the past, both of you, because Les loves Alex Smith so much. And I'm being
not true, Mike.
I'm being facetious there. If you ever talked to Aaron Rodgers, looking back over that decision, there was a debate, as it was with Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning, of who to take number one. And Aaron not only was not number one, but fell like Dan Marino, like a load of coal in the draft. I mean, in looking back on the two careers, there's no comparison. Aaron Rodgers is such a superior quarterback. Have you ever talked to Aaron about why he dropped, or do you have any theories about why that happened?
I don't know if Aaron exactly knows the reason. There have been some things that have leaked out over time about concerns about his knee injury from college and things like that. But the draft is so unpredictable. Things just kind of happen the way they do, and he's made no secret of the fact that over the course of his career, he's used what happened on draft day as motivation. That was certainly a big part of his game leading up to winning that Super Bowl a few years ago. You always wonder. I think the question is, if Aaron Rodgers goes somewhere else and has to play right away, like Alex Smith did for Mike McCarthy in San Francisco as offensive coordinator at the time, actually, if Rodgers has to play right away rather than get to sit for 3 years and learn and absorb and all that kind of stuff, is he the same quarterback now that as he turned out to be? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if any of us know the answer to that. There are the Alex Smiths who shuffle around from offensive coordinator in different systems, and they never quite, put it all together necessarily. Then there are the Andrew Lucks who come on the scene. They play as rookies. They're playing at a Pro Bowl level pretty quickly, and they've got their team in contention right away. So I don't really know what the answer to that is, but it's certainly fun to revisit history once in a while.
You're not only, I'm going to take a line from, what was that movie with Julia Roberts where Pretty Woman? Remember that?
Uh-huh.
Mike,
Richard
you're
Gere,
not only a handsome man, but you are a brilliant man, too. Great answers. I hope you'll come join us again. I have my man crush on Mike. We're going to see you, Mike.
Mike.
The Broncos play the Packers this year.
I think they're going to be in the. You want to know something? I think it's going to be a Super Bowl matchup of the Packers and Broncos. I really do.
Do you think so?
I absolutely do.
Well, they're playing each other in the regular season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be an interesting game. Peyton versus Aaron. They haven't played much together.
It's a night game here, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's a Monday night game. It's the hottest ticket in Denver in years.
That's going to be a fabulous game.
Pat Bowlen, the owner of the Broncos, is going into the Ring of Fame,
yeah.
and it's a nationally televised game. Mike, hope you're able to come join us for that. That's going to be a fun time to see. I think Aaron and Peyton have only played like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember myself. I remember in 2008 when Manning was with the Colts, and that was Rodgers' first year as a starter, that the Colts came to Lambeau Field and the Packers won that game. And I'm not sure, honestly, if Manning and Rodgers have gone head to head other than that one time. I'd have to look back for sure on that, but that should definitely be a fun one, and yeah, let's talk again leading up to it.
All right, Mike, we'll send everybody to Packers.com to read your stuff. Thank you for your time.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, Mike Spofford, and that was brought to you by Shanahan Steakhouse.
2 good guys today.
Yeah, the best steakhouse in town, absolutely the best steakhouse in town. It's where Woody goes to celebrate. You probably celebrate his 500th win on Around the Horn at Shanahan's in the next night or
John,
two.
do we want to
it's
do
where
that
I go to
tonight?
celebrate stuff. Best food in town.
Can I get a gift certificate?
Diner's Choice winner. Book a reservation today at shanahansteakhouse.com.